by Coach Renz, and we are. What's up, people? So we're getting started with it's Thursday. It's book club day. Thursday book club day. Reading the Kybalion. Going through the Kybalion. Law of gender today. The law of gender. It's a long chapter. But we're gonna get through it today. Give our obligatory 3, 4, 5 minutes to let some people get their life together. Let me turn this thing off so it won't make all this noise over here. Yay. Everybody having a great Thursday. You having a great Thursday? I'm having a great Thursday. Okay. Well, Facebook just want to be stupid. We're going to try something different with Facebook again. I'm having a great Thursday. I hope you guys are having a great Thursday. Slept great last night. And had some crazy dreams as usual, as I usually do. So there was that. Had some great dreams, crazy dreams. But I'm here. Getting ready to make some big changes in my lifestyle real soon. So let me know where you at while we get started. I'm the owner of a cigar lounge. If you can't tell, let me let TikTok see. That's the humidor over there. The humidor in the back. Today I'm smoking the GTO anesthesia. We are going to be reading. This is the next to the last chapter of the Kybalion. This is the last law. What do I what? Is that all you're saying? How you doing? This is the last chapter in the Kybalion. We're reading the Kybalion. Thursday is book club day. The Kybalion. In about 3 weeks, we're going to start with a different book. We're going to probably do the Gospel of Thomas. Then the Tao. Books on philosophy. Open up your mind. Let you grow a little bit. If you don't know what the Kybalion is a set of 7 hermetic laws. It's like some cliff notes that came from the Emerald Tablets, the author being Thoth or Enki, Osiris, goes under many names. But we're doing through the Kybalion. We've already went through every one of them in brief summary as we've read every word of this book. But we've gone through the law of mentalism, the all, what the all is, the all in all, the divine paradox. We've done the law of correspondence, then the law, as above, so below, the law of polarity, everything exists on a pole, the law of vibration, everything vibrates, everything moves, the law of rhythm, everything has a swing as far as it can swing to the right as it can swing to the left. Then neutralization, of course, is very important. And then we did the law of causation. For every cause, there's an effect. There is no such thing as luck, chance, or miracle. And so now we are in the last law. And then after the last law, it has some axioms. I don't even know if we'll probably do that one as a quick one, round up next week. But now we are in the law of gender. This should be interesting. It ain't going to be everything some people think it's going to be, but it's going to be interesting. And we do read the book. So if you don't like my reading, you're going to struggle. But my reading is pretty damn good. So don't get stuck somewhere. So, but if you have questions, thoughts concerning the subject matter as we go, we'll try to, we'll talk about them. Right. Law of gender. You're giving it away, man. Everything has its masculine and its feminine. There can be no creation without the masculine and the feminine. So, why is it our race? It ain't just our race. That's black woman versus black man. I've dealt with white people for a long time. In some of the jobs that I've had and companies I've had, it would be white woman against white man, Asian woman against Asian man. We just oftentimes focus on what we are. and don't necessarily see the same thing going on with other people. Yeah. So that's one thing. We have to stop thinking that we the so downtrodden and we the only ones that's having struggles or issues. We just got screwed for last 400-500 years economically. But trust me, white women, if white women were happy with white men, they wouldn't have women's liberation and all that stuff. And they still argue. They still mad. They still getting just divorced. They still got household where the white man may be in the house, but he ain't dealing with his wife. He ain't dealing with his kids. I saw that a lot when I was an in-house personal trainer. But so we ain't the only ones that have these struggles. Say I love white women and Asian women. I love all women, but I gotta have me a black woman. Gotta have me a black woman. Nothing against any other kind of woman, but I gotta have me a black woman. Hey Teresa, Nathaniel, how y'all doing? Carrie, what's up? All right, we're about to get started. Got to get started because the law of gender is actually, it's kind of long. It kind of got a little length to it. But of course, we're gonna, like I said, post your questions. If I miss them on TikTok because they scroll too fast, and you see me looking up, go ahead and redo it. Yeah, it's a personal preference, exactly. So the law of gender. Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and its feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. Right off the bat. Because I had somebody the other day on my live yesterday talking about, when we was talking about how the certain laws don't affect outside of that. You got to have, wait a minute. The only reason that the law of correspondence works is because the earth has to be flat, right? That's what he was trying to say. The law of gender exists on all planes. There's also this video where this guy's trying to explain why God is a male. Gender exists on all planes. Even in the creation of the all, gender exists. No matter what plane of existence we talk about, there is always gender. So this idea of a overly masculine deity should already be dismissed just by the one plane axiom. But let's read. The great seventh hermetic principle. The principle of gender embodies the truth that there is gender manifest in everything, that the masculine and feminine principles are ever present and active in all phases of phenomena. On each and every plane of life, at every point we think it will to call your attention to the fact that gender in its hermetic sense, and sex in its ordinarily accepted use of the term are not the same. They're not the same. So what we separate as, and I had to have this conversation with some of the people who like to use the acronym, the alphabet people. Gender and sex, as far as the hermetic sense, is not the same. So stop confusing the two. But gender is in every aspect of life, in every plane of existence. Sex is similar but different, and we'll get into it. In some parts of this book, I told you guys before, some parts of this book I don't agree with. You ain't got to agree with every portion of this book. You shouldn't agree with everything in any book. The word gender is derived from the Latin root meaning to beget, to procreate, to generate, to create, to produce. A moment's consideration will show you that the word has as much broader and more general meaning than the term sex. The latter referring to the physical distinction between male and female living things. Sex is merely a manifestation of gender on a certain plane of the great physical plane, the plane of organic life. We wish to impress this distinction upon your mind for the reason that certain writers who have acquired a smattering of the Hermetic philosophy have sought to identify this seventh Hermetic principle with wild and fanciful and often reprehensible theories and teachings regarding sex. So sex is a derivative of gender, is what they're saying, that out of gender comes sex. the book is supposed to come into your life when the universe sees you're ready. I would agree with you on that one. I would agree with you on that one. Y'all make sure y'all share this live. Get the sharing and get the liking on TikTok so they don't cancel me on TikTok. TikTok like to cancel my stuff because people like to complain. But get the sharing. Get the sharing. Right? But yes. So gender is the primary. To beget, procreate, to generate, to create, to produce. Generation is the primary idea. Generation. It generates everything. Everything generates from gender. Right? Sex is just how we devise gender on this matter plane. I'm male because I'm born with the XY. Teresa is the XX chromosome. I know she a girl. I think Madria, if I'm saying your name right, the picture looks like a woman. So no sound. There should be plenty of sound. I don't know. I can't figure that out. But anyway, so we'll continue. The office of gender is solely that of creating, producing, generating, etc. And its manifestations are visible on every plane or phenomenon. It is somewhat difficult to produce proof of this along scientific lines, for reasons that science has not yet recognized this principle as a universal application. But some proofs are forthcoming from scientific sources. In the first place, we find a distinct manifestation of the principle of gender among the corpuscles, ions, or electrons, which constitute the basis of matter, as science now knows the latter, and which by forming certain combinations forms the atom, which until lately was regarded as final and individual. This is going to be a little bit long. Next chapter going to explain actually that part about, how these atoms are influenced and how they are separated by positive and negative. So let's just go ahead and read that one. The latest word of science is that the atom is composed of a multitude of corpuscles, electrons, or ions, the various names being applied by different authorities, revolving around each other and vibrating at a higher degree of an intensity. But the accompanying statement is made that the formation of the atom is really due to the clustering of negative corpuscles around a positive one. The positive corpuscle seems to exert a certain influence upon the negative corpuscle, causing the latter to assume certain combinations and thus create or generate an atom. This is in line with the most ancient hermetic teachings, which have always identified the masculine principle of gender with the positive and the feminine with the negative poles of electricity, so-called. Now, this is going to go into it, but right off the bat, let me go ahead and say, don't take the positive and negative to refer it to good and bad. This is not on the same pole as morality. So when it says that the masculine is positive, the feminine is negative, it is not on the same pole of morality. This is on the pole of magnetism. Remember when we talked about polarity, and we talking about mentalism, and then we discussed polarity and how you solve issues. You first have to identify the pole. So identify this pole as magnetism, not the magnet when it comes to an atom, or when it comes to gender as attractiveness or magnetism, not morality of good or bad. So women aren't evil, men aren't good. That's not the point. This is a different pole. But it is noticed that how that one attracts the other. And that's what it's about to go into a little bit more. Now, word at this point regarding this identification. The public mind has formed an entirely erroneous impression regarding the qualities of the so-called negative pole of electrified or magnetized matter. The terms positive and negative are very wrongly applied to this phenomenon by science. The word positive means something real and strong, as compared to negative, unreality, or weakness. Nothing is further from the real fact of electrical phenomenon. The so-called negative pole of the battery is really the pole in and by which the generation or production of new forms of energies is manifested. You understand that? It is the negative pole that new forms of energy is manifested. There is nothing negative about it. The best scientific authorities now use the word cathode in place of negative. The word cathode, coming from the Greek root meaning descent. The path of generation. From the cathode pole emerged the swarm of electrons or corpuscles. From the same pole emerged those wonderful rays which have revolutionized scientific conceptions during the past decade. The cathode pole is the mother of all of the strange phenomena which have rendered useless the old textbooks, and which have caused many long accepted theories to be relegated to the scrap pile of scientific speculation. The cathode or negative pole is the mother principle of electrical phenomenon and of the finest forms of matter as yet known in science. So you see, we are justified in refusing to use the term negative in our consideration of the subject, and in insisting upon substituting the word feminine for the old term. In fact, damn flowers on my neck. In fact, of the case, bear us out in this, without taking the hermetic teachings into consideration. And so we shall use the word feminine in the place of negative in speaking of the pole or of activity. So it just went through a whole bunch of things explaining why we don't want to use the term negative when we use the term cathode when we're referring to science or electricity. But as far as the hermetic philosophy, we're going to use the word feminine energy. I am a Memphinist. I am extremely offended with this stream. I'm going to kindly ask you to not thanks. I don't even understand what your point is, Turtle. And if you're offended by this stream, then scroll to somebody else's. This is a reading of the Kybalion. So that's an inherent problem with people today. We feel like that if we're offended by something, somebody shouldn't have the ability to communicate with other people. Censorship has become censorship has become y'all have become very Nazi in your likes and dislikes. You want to cancel people, you want to get rid of people, you want to censor people. I attribute this to the weakness of society. When I was coming up, we grew up with some thick skin. We were able to listen and let people speak, whether we agreed with them or not. But this generation of people are so freaking weak that everything that offends them, they want to disregard and get rid of. Instead of, one, maybe listen and see what the hell I'm talking about, or two, move on. Move on. As the world has gotten smaller and people are able to communicate more, you are going to come across more varied thought processes. You're going to have people with different mentalities, different cultures. And simply because you disagree with them is not justification for you to censor them. There is no harm that is being caused by me doing a live reading a book. But if you don't like it, go away, scroll. It's a very simple thing to do. And I am not going to stop this podcast. Now on TikTok, I need y'all to like the hell out of this. However many people are on here, you got to heart the hell out of this, because a person like that will know that the TikTok algorithm will allow, if they complain and if there's not enough likes, TikTok will shut it down. It's happened to me before. bullshit. Good night. Boy, I tell you. Let's move on. And I got off my soapbox. So let's continue in the reading. The latest scientific teachings are that the creative corpuscles or the electrons are feminine. Science says they are composed of negative electricity. We say they are composed of feminine energy. A feminine corpuscle becomes detached from, or rather leaves a masculine corpuscle and starts a new career. It actively seeks a union with a masculine corpuscle, being urged thereto by the natural impulse to create new forms of matter or energy. One writer goes so far as to use the term it at once seeks of its own volition a union. It's this detachment in and uniting form of basis. I can't even, just throw me off. This detachment and uniting form uniting form the basis of the greater part of the activities of the chemical world. When the feminine corpuscle unites with the masculine corpuscle, a certain process is begun. The feminine particles vibrate rapidly under the influence of the masculine energy. The cycle circles rapidly around the latter. The result is the birth of a new atom. The new atom is really composed of a union of a masculine and feminine electron or corpuscle. But when the union is formed, the atom is a separating thing having certain properties, but no longer manifesting the property of the free electricity. The process of detachment or separation of the feminine electron is called ionization. These electrons or corpuscles are the most active workers in nature's field. Arising from their unions or combinations manifest the very phenomena of light: heat, electricity, magnetism, attraction, repulsion, chemical affinity, and the reverse and similar phenomena. And all this rises from the operation of the principle of gender on the plane of energy. So it's talking about the plane of energy. So basically, the feminine energy, which creates generation, is always going to be looking to seek the masculine energy in order for it to manifest any type or form of energy and attach to it. And once that happens, the vibration increases in order to create more energy. We're going to get into how this actually works for you in your mind and how we live and exist today. But first, it just wants to give you a general understanding of the masculine and feminine energy, how it's working. And this is just on the pole of energy. The part of the masculine principle seems to be that of a directing of a certain inherent energy towards the feminine principle, and thus starting into activity, the creative process. But the feminine principle is the one always doing the active work, and this is so on all planes. And yet each principle is incapable of operative energy without the assistance of the other. Now, I do want to stop right there for just a second, because the masculine energy is always looking to incite, to start the energy, and it's just a starter. Kind of like how the sperm has just the instructions, but the negative energy, the feminine energy, is the one that nurtures, that manifests, that does all the work thereafter. So it's basically just explaining, and just how we manifest children is one of the easiest examples of how to understand that. Is that the male provides the sperm, the female has the egg. The egg is the nurturing. The male sperm has a lot of the instructions in order to get started, but neither can create without the other. So although one may do more work than the other, neither can create without the other. And yeah, I know you know some people that, because of the world we live in now with all the stuff, but with their identities, but this ain't got nothing to do with that at this point. There is a point, though. I think it does. So let's continue. And yet each principle is incapable of operative energy without the assistance of the other. In some of the forms of life, the two principles are combined in one organism. For that matter, everything in the organic world manifests both genders. There is always a masculine present in the feminine form and the feminine form. There's always a masculine present in the feminine form and the feminine form. That's what it says. The Hermetic teachings include much regarding the operation of the two principles of gender in the production and manifestation of various forms of energy, etc. But we do not deem it expedient to go into details regarding the same at this point, because we are unable to back up some of the scientific proof for the reason that science has not yet progressed thus far. But the examples we have given you of the phenomena in the electrons or corpuscles will show you that science is on the right path, and will also give you the general idea of the underlying principle. So just more that you got to have a masculine. Everything exists, and everything has a masculine and feminine aspect of it. There cannot be existence without the masculine and feminine. Some leading scientific investigators have announced their belief that in the formation of the crystals, there was to be found something that corresponds to sex activity, which is another straw showing the direction of scientific wind, showing the direction the scientific winds are blowing. And each year will bring other facts to corroborate the correctness of the Hermetic principles of gender. It will be found that gender is in constant operation and manifestation in the field of inorganic matter and in the field of energy or force. Electricity is now generally regarded as something into which all forms of energy seem to melt or dissolve. The electrical theory of is the latest scientific doctrine and is growing rapidly in popularity in general acceptance. And it thus follows that if we are able to discover in the phenomena of electricity, even at the very root of the source of its manifestations, a clear and unmistakable evidence of the presence of gender and its activities, we are justified in asking you to believe that science at last has offered proof of the existence in all the universal phenomena of that great Hermetic principle, the principle of gender. So it's selectively saying that we get to the point where we can understand that gender is present in energy, and then it will prove the principle of gender, since energy, everything in the universe is one form of energy or another. So, and I forgot what year this book was. This was originally written like I believe around 1908, 1930. So of course a lot of scientific we've come further scientifically than since this book was actually written. So some of these things we have already found this is true. This is just how science has discovered some of these things. Let's finish this part, then we're going to get into mental gender. It is not necessary to take, it's hot in here. It is not necessary to take your time with the well-known phenomena of the attraction or repulsion of atoms, chemical affinity, the love and the hate of the atomic particles, the attraction or cohesion between the molecules of matter. These facts are too well known to need extended comment from us. But have you ever considered that all these things are manifestations of the gender principle? Can you not see that the phenomenon is on all fours with that of the corpuscle and electrons? And more than this, can you not see the reasonableness of the Hermetic teachings, which assert that the very law of gravitation, that strange attraction by some of which all particles and bodies of matter in the universe tend towards each other, is but another manifestation of the principle of gender? We operate on the direction of attracting the masculine to the feminine energy and vice versa. We cannot offer you scientific proof at this time, but examine the phenomena in the light of the Hermetic teachings on the subject and see if you have not a better working hypothesis than any offered by the physical science. Submit all physical phenomena to the test, and you will discern the principle of gender ever in evidence. Let us now pass on to the consideration of the operation of the principle of on the mental plane. Many interest interesting features are there awaiting examination. Now, we have, hold on, I gotta turn the air conditioner on. It's hot. All right. Gotta get some air in this place. So everything has an attraction. Everything attracts, and everything exists on the same poles. The law of gravity. I know it's common. What goes up must come down is a common little thing. But when we thinking about gravity, gravity is a function of attraction, of magnetism. We all have our own magnetic field around us. It's nowhere near comparable to the Earth magnetic field, but it's in concert with the magnetic field. And that is what keeps us grounded and keeps us attached to this planet. Not even going to go into that with anybody who come on here with flat Earth stuff. We're not even talking about that. I shake it. But the fact that gravity is a universal force that you find in any mass particle, right? And each time you have gravity, you have a north pole and a south pole. You have a basically a positive and a negative. That positive and negative is incongruent with the idea of the masculine and feminine of your own personal magnetic pole, right? And your centers of gravity differ based on your sex. For instance, a male center of gravity is in his chest, whereas a female center of gravity is in her hips. Therefore, it is easily seen just on strength levels. Most of a male strength is chest up. Most of a female strength is waist down. This is good because of the different functions that our body has in nature. Doesn't mean one is greater than the other, but in truth, we should look at them as one is supportive of the other, that they work together as far as how we are structured and how we should be structured in society. We're not talking about the Bible right now, but after we finish this reading, if you want to talk about that, we can. Saying that Bible, this insecure, mediocre thing doesn't speak for all men. Okay, so we are coming in with the insults, I guess. I don't understand. Humans are amazing to me. Love your content, the logic put forth in this conversation. Appreciate that, Michael. So basically, the law of gender is effective in everybody, and it attaches to everyone. It is what attracts us to other people. It is what repulses us from other people. So let's continue with the law of mental gender. So now it's going to the Kybalion. Those who are just now starting with us, we're going through the Kybalion, and we will now go with the next portion of this chapter. And I'm going a little bit faster than normal because I want to make sure we get this one done, because this portion concerning mental gender is quite a few pages. So mental gender. Students of psychology who have followed the modern trend of thought along the lines of mental phenomenon are struck by the persistence of the dual-minded idea, which has manifested itself so strongly during the past 10, 15 years, and which have given rise to a number of plausible theories regarding the nature and constitution of these two minds. The late Thomas J. Hudson attained great popularity in 1893 by advancing his well-known theory of the objective and subjective mind, which he held existed in every individual. Other writers have attracted almost equal attention by their theories regarding the consciousness and subconscious, conscious and the subconscious mind, the voluntary and the involuntary mind, the active and the passive mind, etc., etc. The theories of various writers differ from each other, but there remains the underlying principle of the duality of mind. And this have pretty much been accepted in science since we all have, we know that you have a mind that is conscious and a mind that is unaware during your conscious states. I don't like using the term subconscious as often because it is not sub to it, but it's going to use that term subconscious a lot. But they are equal in their ability. Gender wrong. Men carry XXY. Women are similar. Learn how to type first, bro. All right. So I knew that doing this one, I was going to get some of this bullshit. Men made women, so men carry both genes. Nobody said that men don't carry both genes. Men are XY chromosomes. This is what this book is talking about. You dribble into with the baselessness of sex, of how we defined it, and not understanding that the law of gender is above the base carnal levels of sex, of physical sex, that we place things in. I knew this nonsense was going to come today. Because evidently, exactly, Angelina, some people are not here to listen, right, and be able to have a decent conversation. And don't know how to just scroll. Okay, dude, you said it. Men create women, so men carry both genes. You said it. That's true. And here's something. Now, this is something that I always find interesting. Oh, you're not a doctor. So what you're telling me is that you have to be a doctor to be able to read a book or come into an understanding that men carry both XY chromosomes, that the sperm, that men's sperm is what determines the sex of a baby. That's not, I got to be a doctor to know that, you know. That's called I can read and comprehend. You know, if people want, they like to do that. That's part of trying to discredit somebody, is by trying to say that, well, if you're not an engineer, then you can't talk on this subject. If you're not a doctor, you can't talk on this subject. No, if you can read and have understanding and comprehension, you can talk on any subject. You do not have to go to somebody's school and prove that you can pass a test in order for you to demonstrate intelligence. But what you can do is come onto a podcast and keep saying the same thing over and over again and be completely out of context of what the discussion is about and show your ignorance. You can do that. You can do that. Because that's what they're doing. I knew this was going to happen today. I knew it. People, because in our world today, here's the thing, and I'm gonna stop for a second, because I was hoping that I wasn't going to have to deal with it, so I didn't want to preface it and say it in the beginning. But in our world today, these people, our society is so caught up in gender, meaning I'm binary, I'm shit, I don't even know all these little acronyms that they call them. Good. If you're over me, then why are you still here? But people go into all of this. They're so caught up in this mess, this nonsense, right? That this ain't got nothing to do with how you identify yourself. It has absolutely nothing to do with this. But people are so caught up into gender being a self-identification that the hermetic laws ain't got shit to do with that. Not one blessed thing. It is purely science, it's mostly science-based and factually based. And it's about energy. It ain't got shit to do with if you got a penis or if you got a poom poom. It ain't got nothing to do with how you feel you are. But these people are so triggered by the word gender. Oh shit. He must be some phobic. He don't know what he talking about. He ain't a doctor. And hadn't listened to one blessed word. So caught up into their own mind that they can't hear nothing. You know, it's amazing to me. What up, Mars? How you doing? Yeah, evidently it's not. Mara's saying what understood shouldn't have to be explained. And it shouldn't, because this ain't got nothing to do with E. Bayless, whatever he's talking about. No, and that's our quote thing today. And you know, it's one of those things. It said, the more I listen, the more I learn. And the more I learn, the more I listen. And the more I realize how much I don't know. That's why if you were around me, like, even though Angelina has never said anything about it, the moment we separate, I'm YouTube video, I'm listening to something. I'm listening to something. Go take a shower, I'm listening to something. Going anything that I'm doing that's not involving another person, I'm listening to something. Because I'm learning. It's always about learning. Yes, exactly, Teresa. People and their feelings. And if they really knew me, they know that there's a point where I could care less about your feelings. So to continue, because I got a lot in the mental gender. The student of the Hermetic philosophy is tempted to smile when he reads and hears of these many new theories regarding the duality of mind. Each school adhering tenaciously to its own pet theories, and each claiming to have discovered the truth. And the student turns back the page of occult history and a way back in the dim beginnings of occult teachings, he finds references to the ancient Hermetic doctrine of the principle of gender on the mental plane. The manifestation of mental gender, and examining further, he finds that the ancient philosophy took cognizance of the phenomenon of the dual mind, and accounted for it by the theory of mental gender. This idea of mental gender may be explained in a few words to students who are familiar with the modern theories just alluded to. The masculine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called objective mind, the conscious mind, voluntary mind, active mind, etc. The feminine principle of mind corresponds to the so-called subjective mind, subconscious mind, involuntary mind, passive mind, etc. Of course, the Hermetic teachings do not agree with many of the modern theories regarding the nature of the two phases of mind, nor does it admit any of the facts for the two respective aspects. Some of the said theories and claims being very far-fetched and incapable of standing the test of experiment and demonstration. We point to the phases of argument merely for the purpose of helping the student to assimilate his previously acquired knowledge with the teachings of the Hermetic principles. Students of Hudson will note the statement at the beginning of his second chapter of the Law of Psychic Phenomenon that the mystic jargon of the Hermetic philosophers discloses the same general idea, i.e., the duality of mind. If Dr. Hudson had taken the time and trouble to decipher a little of the mystic jargon of the Hermetic principle, he might have received much light upon the subject of the dual mind. But then perhaps his most interesting work might not have been written. Let us now consider the Hermetic teaching regarding mental gender. So the duality of mind is simply that, and I'm sure some of you have heard the terminology being used, that we have a masculine mind and a feminine mind, that at different aspects of the mind work on different things. When we look at and say we have a logical mind and we have a creative mind, I don't know if I got the right side, but one frontal lobe is supposed to be more creative. The other lobe is more instructional and logic. That would coincide with the having a dual mind, one being masculine, the other being feminine, one being hard, the other being nurturing, one being instruction, and one being creative. So that's one of the aspects of what it's saying as far as having a duality of mind, as far as the Hermetic principles are concerned. Let us continue. The Hermetic teachers impart their instructions regarding this subject by bidding their students by bidding their students examine the report of their consciousness regarding their self. The students are bidding, this was written in 1930, y'all, are bidden to turn their attention inward upon the self-dwelling within each. Each student is led to see that the consciousness gives him first a report of the existence of self, of himself, of his self. The report is, I am. This at first seems to be the final words from the consciousness, but a little further examination discloses the fact that this I am may be separated or split into two distinct parts or aspects, which, while working in unison, is in conjunction, yet nevertheless may be separated in consciousness. While at first there seems to be only an I existing, the more careful and closer examination reveals the fact that there exists an I and a me. I really want you guys to pay attention to this part. All right. The difference between the I and the me. Okay. And how it goes into it. Because I can go ahead and explain it, but I don't want to. I want you guys to hear the part first. These mental twins differ in their characteristics and natures, and examination of their nature and the phenomena arising from the same will throw much light on the many of the problems of mental influence. Let us begin with the consideration of the me, which is usually mistaken for the I. The me is usually mistaken for the I. The me is usually mistaken for the I by the student until he presses his inquiry a little further back into the recesses of consciousness. A man thinks of himself in the aspect of me, as being composed of certain feelings, tastes, likes, dislikes, habits, particularities, characteristics, etc., all of which go to make up his personality, or the self known to himself and others. He knows that these emotions and feelings change, are born and die away, are subject to the principle of rhythm. And y'all remember the principle of rhythm? As far as something swings to the left, it can swing to the right. And the principle of polarity, understanding the pole that we're talking about, which takes him from one extreme of feelings to another. He also thinks of the me as being certain knowledge gathered together in his mind and thus forming a part of himself. This is the me of man. So you can say your personality, who you are, your likes, dislikes, but those things change over time. It can change and swing from the left to the right. So that is the me portion of who you are. But it's going to continue. But we have proceeded too hastily. So that's what most people would think the me of them is. But we'll continue. We have proceeded too hastily. The me of many men may be said to consist largely of their consciousness of the body and their physical appetite, etc. The consciousness being largely bound up with their bodily nature, particularly live there. They practically live there. They practically live there. These men even go as far as to regard their personal apparel as part of their me, and actually seem to consider it part of themselves. A writer has humorously said that men consist of three parts: body, soul, and clothes. These clothes conscious people would lose their personality if divested of their clothing by savages upon the occasion of a shipwreck. But even many who are not so closely bound up with the idea of personal raiment stick closely to the consciousness of their bodies being their me. They cannot conceive of the self independent of the body. Their mind seems to them to be particularly a something belonging to their body, which in many cases it is indeed. But as man arises on the scale of consciousness, he is able to disentangle his me from his idea of body, and is able to think of his body as belonging to the mental part of him. But even then, he is very apt to identify the me entirely with the mental states, feelings, etc., which he feels to exist within himself. He is very apt to consider these internal states as identical with himself, instead there being simply things produced by some part of his mentality and existing within him, of him, and in him, but still not himself. He sees that he may change these initial states of feelings by all efforts of will, and that he may produce a feeling or state of an exactly opposite nature in the same way, and yet the same me exists. And so after a while, he is able to set aside these various mental states, emotions, feelings, habits, qualities, characteristics, and other personal mental belongings. He is able to set them aside in the not me collection of curiosities and embrace and encumbrances, as well as valuable possession. This requires much mental concentration and power of mental analysis on the part of the student. But still, the task is possible for the advanced student, and even those not so far advanced are able to see in the imagination how the process may be performed. I know that was a lot. I can give you a simple rendition of it. I am not my hair. Oh, what was it? Oh, NDRE. I am not my hair. Basically, we confuse the me with everything that we have attached ourselves to. You attach yourself to your clothing. It used clothes as an example in this book. But oftentimes, one example that is very prevalent here in Atlanta, people think they are the car that they drive, the house that they live in, and the job title that they have. That is their me. They have basically said their mind, there is attack that their mind is just part of the body, as and not the body is a part of the mind. We were talking about dating in the lounge not too long ago, and in that process, many people characterize, or not characterize, their evaluation of a person, of who they think that person is based on how much money they make. It's based on where they live, what their job title is. I've seen it where there are those who have, and this is going to sound like I understand people want to be financially secure. It makes sense. Nothing against that. But when you judge a person and say that, well, this person makes, $100,000. This person makes $60,000. This person is a welder. This person is a system administrator or head of HR. Title looks better. This person makes more money. But we'll judge somebody and say the title. I want the title. The title makes them better. But the financial security that the welder produces is a better situation for it, because we've attached titles to the me of a person. We'll attach that and say that that's the person. The way a person dress, or what kind of bag you carry, what kind of shoes. I see you do. I got all the Air Force Ones. We attach ourselves to these external things, and then we will think that that is us, but it's not really who you are. It's not really who you are. When they can't attack my information, they try to attack me personally. So let's continue, because we want to get into the I as well and see the difference. After this laying aside process has been performed, the student will find himself in conscious possession of a self, which may be considered in its I and me dual aspects. The me will be felt to be of something mental in which thoughts, ideas, emotions, feelings, and other mental states may be produced. It may be considered as the mental womb, as the ancient styled it, capable of generating mental offspring. It reports of consciousness as a me with latent powers of creation and mental progeny of all sorts and of kinds. Its powers of creative energy are felt to be enormous. Where I got erroneous from. Felt to be enormous, but still it seems to be conscious that it must receive some form of energy from either its eye companion or else from some other eye ere it is able to bring into being its mental creation. This consciousness brings with it a realization of an enormous capacity for mental work and mental ability. So the me is going to have the I in order to create, basically. And then it would actually kind of know its true self if you're advanced enough and open enough. But the student soon finds that it is not all that he finds within his inner consciousness. He finds that there exists a mental something which is able to will that the me acts along certain creative lines, and which is also able to stand aside and witness the mental creation. This part of himself, he is taught, is called the I. Now, I underline that part, so I want to read that part again. I like to have a tendency to reread the parts that I underline. He finds that there exists a mental something which is able to will that the me acts along certain creative lines, and which is also able to stand aside and witness the mental creation. This part of himself, he has taught to call his I. Your will can move your me into whichever direction you choose. You may label this as to redefine yourself. It's all right, Jamie. I know you're late. It's all right. I miss some people. Grand Rising, Don, how you doing, brother? He is able to rest in its consciousness at will. He finds there is not a consciousness of an ability to generate or actively create in the sense of the gradual process attendant upon the mental operation, but rather a sense and consciousness of an ability to project an energy form, the I, to the me. The process of willing that the mental creation begin and proceed. He also finds that the I is able to stand aside and witness the operations of the me's mental creation and generation. There is a dual aspect in the mind of every person. The I represents the masculine principle of mental gender, and the me represents the female principle. The I represents the aspect of being, and the me, the aspect of becoming. You will notice that the principle of correspondence operates on this plane just as it does upon the great planes upon which the creation of the universe is performed. The two are similar in kind, although vastly different in degree. As above, so below; as below, so above. Understand this part of it. Where is it? The I represents the aspect of being, your will of being. The me is the aspect of becoming. The me is who and what you are becoming. But and that becoming is something that can be willed from your I. Not your eye, from the I. So from the I of your being, you will your me of what you will become or what you are becoming. But there has to be will implemented. These aspects of mind, the masculine and feminine principle, the I and the me, considered in connection with the well-known mental and physical and psychic phenomenon, give the master key to these dimly known regions of mental operation and manifestation. The principle of mental gender gives the truth underlying the whole field of the phenomena of mental influence. The tendency of the feminine principle is always in the direction of receiving impressions. So the me that you are becoming is always receiving the impressions that are sent from the I. Now, be on guard. You can also receive the mental impressions from other people as well. While the tendency of the masculine principle is always in the direction of giving out or expressing, the feminine principle is as much more varied, has a much more varied field of operation than has the masculine principle. The feminine principle conducts the work of the generating new thoughts, concepts, ideas, including the work of the imagination. This is why they say the creative part of your brain is where your imagination comes from. The masculine principle contends itself with the work of will in its varied phases, and yet without the active aid of the will of the masculine principle, the feminine principle is apt to rest constant when received from outside instead of producing original mental creations. To me, that speaks to the laziness of mind. If you yourself are not sending impressions, then your creativity becomes stagnant. It does nothing other than what it is fed from the outside or what other people give it. Your desire to become something, if you don't have a desire to become something, then you will simply become whatever it is others outside of you have dictated. Kind of like how a parent, perfect example. There was a young lady who came into my popcorn shop. And some of you guys heard this before, but this is in a different light. But she came to my popcorn shop. And her parents had infused in her so strongly that the only man that she could ever date or marry must have attended at HBCU. If he did not attend an HBCU, he was not worthy of her marrying him. Now, this young lady was so caught up into what her parents had impressed into her me as she was growing up, that was impressed into her me, that she was fully indoctrinated into that thought process because she never considered or had the opportunity. You always got the opportunity, but she never considered that she could meet someone amazing who either didn't, because you had to attend college too. You couldn't have been like a person who invented something, started a business, or went to the military or went to trade school. You had to be somebody who went to a HBCU in order for her to be even consider you. But this was all the impressions from the parents' will upon her. So she never made up her own mind. And the young lady is about 35 years, about 30 something years old today at this point. She's on my Facebook and she's still single. And I think it's sad because that's what her parents had impressed upon her. So if you don't impress your own will, somebody else's will become yours. So you should be very cognitive of what you want to become. You should make the decision of what you are becoming, regardless of what other people are trying to decide for you. Like when you're trying to change yourself and the people around you won't allow you to change, is because they're still holding on to the me that you were in the past, the one that they knew and they were comfortable with. But how many pages? We got some pages on this one. All right. Persons who can give continued attention and thought to a subject to a subject actively employed both the mental principles, the feminine in the workings of the mental generation, and the masculine will in stimulating and energizing the creative portion of the mind. The majority of persons really employ the masculine principle but little, and are content to live according to the thoughts and ideas instilled into the me from the I of other minds, not yours, others. But it is not our purpose to dwell upon this phase of the subject, which may be studied from any good textbook upon psychology, with the key that we have given you regarding mental gender. The student of psychic phenomenon is aware of the wonderful phenomenon classified under the head of telepathy, thought transference, mental influence, suggestion, hypnosis, etc. Many have sought for an explanation of these varied phases of phenomenon under the theories of various dual mind teachers, and in a measure they are right, for there is clearly a manifestation of two distinct phases of mental activity. But if each student will consider these dual minds in the light of the hermetic teachings regarding vibration and mental gender, they will see that the long sought for key is at hand. Because people talk about vibration, but they really don't understand vibration. What's it? Anybody? Let me see if anybody says something. You want me to explain as above, so below? You should have been here for the as above, so below class, Donald, when we did law correspondence. But no, you can't explain that quickly. As above, so below is a lot. What affects the below affects the above, as what affects the above affects the below. But there are so many mental planes and planes of existence in that one, so it can't be explained quickly. That's a lot. That's something that I did. Go look in the Kybalion playlist on YouTube. There is the one for the law of correspondence, and you'll see it there. They cure all tobacco using it. What? Cigars do not give you cancer. You have absolutely no idea. If you look it up and research it, you'll see that less than 1% of people who smoke cigars get cancer. People who smoke cigars and cigarettes at the same time get cancer, but people who smoke cigars do not get cancer. Dude, I get that all the time. It's yeah. There we go. Not a doctor. Don't have to be one to do research. Anyway, let's continue. In the phenomenon of telepathy, it is seen how the vibrational energy of the masculine principle is projected towards the feminine principle of another person. And the latter takes the seed thought and allows it to develop into maturity. In the same way, suggestions and hypnosis operate. The masculine principle of the person giving the suggestions direct a stream of vibratory energy or willpower towards the feminine principle of the other person. And the latter accepting it makes it its own and acts and thinks accordingly. An idea thus lodged in the mind of another person grows and develops, and in time is regarded as a rightful mental offspring of the individual, whereas in its reality, like the cuckoo egg placed in a sparrow's nest, where it destroys the rightful offspring that makes itself at home, the normal method for this masculine and feminine principle in a person's mind to coordinate and to act harmoniously in conjunction with each other. But unfortunately, the masculine principle in the average person is too lazy to act the display of willpower is too slight. And the consequences is that such person are ruled almost entirely by the minds and wills of other persons whom they allow to do their thinking and willing for them. How few original thoughts or original actions are performed by the average person? Are not the majority of persons mere shadows and echoes of others having stronger wills or minds than themselves? The trouble is that the average person dwells almost altogether in his me consciousness and does not realize that he has such a thing as an I. He is polarized in his feminine principle of mind, and the masculine principle in which is lodged the will is allowed to remain inactive and not employed. Can I tell you? How many times, just look at our commercialized merchandise world culture that we live in today. People see things that other people are doing, or they promote something over and over again, and people just jump on it and they just unwillingly go do it. I remember, some of y'all may be young, but I remember when Toni Braxton first came out. And every goddamn old woman that I knew went and got them a Toni Braxton haircut. I remember back in the day with Kwame and Kid and Play and all them, and every dude, including myself, had to have the high cut. It is not because I desired my hair grow and put it into a box fade. It was because that's what I saw on TV. That's what I saw the other people doing. Their will was impressed upon me to cut my hair into and let my hair grow and to cut it into this box fade. The same with the Toni Braxton. The same thing we do with clothing. We follow these trends instead of thinking for ourselves. What makes us appreciate and love ourselves? What makes us think more highly of ourselves? What betters ourselves? It may go against the grain of what the rest of society is doing, but it's good for me. It's beneficial for me. And when I say it's beneficial for me, is because the me is who I am becoming, not who somebody else want me to become. I'm deciding. For instance, a year ago, you look at my videos, you didn't see these style hats. I didn't wear these style hats 2 years ago. It wasn't impressed upon me by somebody else that I wanted to be like them. I said, ooh, I saw the hat. I like the hat. I wanted to wear the hat. So I bought the hat, or the hat was gifted to me. So, well, because many of my hats have now been gifted to me. But I chose to change the style of hats that I wear because it was something that I wanted to do for me. It wasn't something that somebody else wanted me to do. It was my own volition. That's the thing, is your mental gender your will has to become strong enough to cause for you to decide who you are. You wanted your hair cut like Farrah Fawcett. But we are impressed. Things are impressed upon us. And some things are benign. But there are times where we have to stand for ourselves and decide what we're going to do, what we're going to be. I had one client back in 2010. She literally had to move to Miami in order for her to become the me that she desired to be. Because every time she tried to make that change here in Atlanta, family, friends, coworkers, everybody question, talking down. And it became so much that she just wanted to get away from everybody. And I told her, you should leave. But let's continue. We're actually going through this pretty better than I thought we would. Mainly because I'm just reading longer passages. The strong men and women of the world invariably manifest the masculine principle of will, and their strength depends materially upon this fact. Instead of living upon the impressions made upon their minds by others, they dominate their own mind by their will, obtaining the kind of mental images desired, and moreover dominating the mind of others likewise. In the same manner, look at the strong people, how they manage to implant their seed thoughts in the minds of the masses of the people, thus causing the latter to think thoughts in according with their desires and wills of strong individual. This is why the masses of people are such sheep-like creatures, never originating an idea of their own, nor using their own powers of mental activity. Y'all know that I talk about this on some of my other videos, especially when I'm talking about black people, and start how we just go along. Like when I have a black person come into the lounge, or I'm talking to them on here, and they start saying, "Well, China is trying to take over Africa," and they're spouting the same rhetoric that America is spouting concerning Africa, without actually doing any research to see what actually China is doing in Africa. You are just following along what the will of America has said, and not investigating and researching and seeing how things are being done in Africa concerning that, which if they did, they would have a difference of opinion with America. The same thing of what happens in our neighborhoods. You know, one of the arguments I used to have, Asian person would come into a black neighborhood. They'll open up a beauty supply store. All right. They open up a wing spot. Yes, we will go to theirs, and we have a tendency to spend all this money. Then people build up in their mind that Asian businesses are just flourishing until you go up Buford Highway in Atlanta and you go through the Asian communities and you see just as many of their businesses. What does that sound? You see just as many of their businesses closing down as you see in any other neighborhood, because 95% of businesses do not succeed. But that one is succeeding because they have no competition. They don't have another, a plethora of beauty supply stores in their community, in that black community. The only other ones there are ones that their cousin operates and started, which is far enough away for them to be successful. But you go into their neighborhoods, all the Asian restaurants that they got, half of them fail. It's a continued cycle. It's just like any other place, but they got it built in their mind because that's the impression that's been put on them in that community. But when you go out and you do real research, you realize that no, that's not the situation. This is a different type of situation that must be evaluated differently. But we tend not to. We tend to just be lazy and allow the news to tell us what reality is. We allow whoever got the loudest voice to just tell us what reality is. We listen to the side of the victor and never listen to the side of the victim, when it comes to like history. So we got to do both. You got to be strong enough to listen across the board, to research and do critical thinking. Otherwise, you will always just follow the leader. It'll always just be follow the leader. And that's what you'll be, a follower. Let's see, where we at? The manifestation of mental gender may... Did I read this part already? No, I didn't. The manifestation of mental gender may be noticed all around us in everyday life. The magnetic persons are those who are able to use the masculine principle in the way of impressing their ideas upon others. The actor who makes people weep and cry as he wills is employing this principle. And so is the successful orator, statesman, preacher, writer, or other people who are before the public's attention. The peculiar influence exerted by some people over others is due to the manifestation of mental gender along the vibrational lines above indicated. In this principle lies the secret of personal magnetism, personal influence, fascination, etc., as well as the phenomenon generally grouped under the name hypnotism. Simple explanation. If anybody else had made the I have a dream speech, it probably would not be a famous speech. There's his ability as an orator to emphasize at the right moments, to raise you up and bring you down, raise you up and bring you down, raise you up to the crescendo and bring you down. Those techniques influence you. They connect with you. And then you wind up following the ideas of that person because they're a great orator or statesman. They do better in the debates because they know how to speak to the people. I was messing with Angelina the other day when I was giving her the Bill Clinton, you know, and the lip thing that he used to do, you know, when Bill Clinton would talk. If you listen to him and you watch him, when he wanted to make sure that you were listening, he had this thumb and fist thing, and he would then bring it out only at certain points that I want your attention. So this is utilizing that masculine portion of your brain to create influence over people. So if you're in sales, or if you're a manager, or you deal with customers or anything of that nature, I actually utilize these principles and taught these things to my sales team in order for them to do better at their job. And even when they were doing phone sales, I would tell them, still speak with your hands, stand up, see yourself speaking, and use those tools so that the energy that you're putting out comes across on the phone, right? Yep, Toastmasters teach you. I went to a Toastmasters meeting, but I've never been in one. Donald, at the end of this, we'll try to cover a little bit more of As Above, So Below. What time is it? Oh, shit. We got to get to reading. I want to be done before 12 just in case somebody walks in. The student who has familiarized himself with the phenomenon generally spoken of as psychic will have discovered the important part played in the said phenomenon by that force, which science has styled suggestion, by which term is meant the process or method whereby an individual is transferred to or impressed upon the mind of others, causing the second mind to act in accordance within. A correct understanding of suggestion is necessary in order to intelligently comprehend the varied psychic phenomenon which the suggestion underlies. But still more is a knowledge of vibration. But still more is a knowledge. Doesn't sound right to me, but it is what it says. But still more is a knowledge of vibration and mental gender, necessary for the student of suggestion. For the whole principle of suggestion depends upon the principle of mental gender and vibration, the two working one in another. This is why I'm saying the raising and lowering of your voice is a form of changing the vibrational pattern. Who was it? I went to one of those speakers things, and I think it was Anthony Hopkins, and he spoke so boring and monotone the whole time, and I could not figure out why this man was getting paid the money he was getting paid to stand on the stage, but he was there. And I said to myself at that time that if this man can stand on this stage and the company that I'm working for was paying him $10,000 to give us sales training, then I can do much better, because that's how he was talking. But that next year we had this other guy, right? And he walked on the stage. He was about 5 foot tall. He had, I don't know what the medical term is when you have the hunchback. He had the hunchback. He was an Australian dude. But he was one of the top salespeople in the company. And when I tell you, yeah, we're humans. We see a person with some type of ailment, and we focused on that initially. But the moment he started talking, you forgot all about it. You were not even, that portion of him didn't exist. His ups and downs, his his flow, everything, his jokes, everything raised your vibration to where when you was done listening to this dude, you was excited. You was like, yeah. But this was a company thing for our company. So it wasn't, but you see that happening when you go to certain, you see why certain people become mega preachers. You see why certain people are phenomenal when it comes to network marketing, and they continue to get people to join in. You see people who can, sell, ice to an Eskimo, as they say, but sell sand to a Bedouin. But it takes, but that's the vibe. That's how vibration and your mental gender works. The masculine portion of your mental brain works, is that when you can know how to swing the vibration, you can implant your will over the will of others. Do not use these powers for evil. It is customary for the writer and teachers to suggest and to explain that it is the objective or voluntary mind which makes the mental impression or suggestion upon the subjective or involuntary mind. But they do not describe the process or give us any analogy in nature whereby we may more readily comprehend the idea. But if you will think of the matter in the light of the hermetic teachings, you will be able to see that the energizing of the feminine principle by the vibratory energy of the masculine principle is in accordance with the universal laws of nature, and that the natural world affords countless allegories whereby the principle may be understood. In fact, the hermetic teaching shows that the very creation of the universe follows the same law, and that in all creative manifestations upon the planes of spirituality, the mental and the physical, there is always in operation the principle of gender. This manifestation of the masculine and feminine principle, as above, so below, as below, so below, so as below, so above, and more than this, when the principle of the mental gender is once grasped and understood, the variety of phenomenon of the psychology at once becomes capable of intelligent classification and study instead of being very much in the dark. The principle works out in practice because it is based upon the immutable universal laws of life. So on all laws, so here's a little bit for you, Donald. On all planes, whether we are talking about spiritual plane A, spiritual plane B, spiritual plane C, matter plane A, matter plane B, matter plane C, atomic plane A, atomic plane B, atomic plane C, the law of gender is at work in any one of them. But it is the level of vibration of the will on any of those planes directed towards the feminine energy on any of those planes that then manifests whatever it is the masculine energy was sending out. So when they say that as above, so below, as above, that the above planes can affect the below planes and the below planes can affect the above planes. If you're people, when people pray, this is why I say religious people, when they pray, they're begging. When they don't get what they want. When you pray in a begging sense, you are not sending a high vibrational wave pattern into the spiritual plane. You are sending a low vibrational wave pattern into the spiritual plane. Therefore, the above does not respond to that of the below. It is when that demand, and the only way you get into a demand, the only way you get into a must be, is when you emotionalize the thought process, which then gives it a higher vibration, and then that affects the higher plane. That affects, because now that vibrational energy is strong enough that the higher spiritual plane must respond to the lower mental plane, physical plane. And it works in reverse as well. Those of the higher can send a vibration to the lower, and the lower will respond to that. We do that in science when they do nuclear fission or nuclear fusion, whichever one, because since we know how to do both now, well, we've known how to do both, but now we can contain one, the other. But it is sending the higher vibrational energy into the atomic, into the atomic structure, which causes it to then react and create and manifest. So the same thing. So when y'all are, but you just have to realize most people are incapable of sending a strong enough vibration because they've been capped by what you've been indoctrinated to in this world. What good does it do a person to say, I'm going to pray or meditate or, demand something from the spiritual plane, if deep in your brain, you are still living based on the mindset that if it's for me, it'll be for me. If it's not, it's not. All things happen in season. If it's, that sort of thing, that the answer can be, if the deity that you worship can give, if you already are saying, well, if the answer is no, then the deity knows better and the answer is no. You've already defeated the energy that you're trying to send out. If you're meditating and you still have some of that in you, you've already defeated the energy that you're trying to send out. And it doesn't go anywhere. And you don't manifest nothing. It doesn't come back. Or if it does come back, it's half-assed. And even when you're good at it, you're not immune to sometimes messing it up. But the more, it's better to get it right most of the time than to get it wrong most of the time. It's better to send strong energy out most of the time than to send weak energy out most of the time. Let's continue, before this thing goes. We shall not enter into an extended discussion of or description of the varied phenomenon of mental influence or psychic activity. There are many books, many of them quite good, which have been written and published on the subject of late years. The main facts stated in these various books are correct. Although the several writers have attempted to explain phenomenon by various pet theories of their own, the student may acquaint himself with these matters, and by using the theories of mental gender, he will be able to bring order out of the chaos of conflicting theories and teachings, and may moreover readily make himself a master of the subject if he is so inclined. The purpose of this work is not to give an extended account of psychic phenomenon, but rather to give to the student a master key whereby he may unlock the many doors leading into the parts of the temple of knowledge which he may wish to explore. We feel that this consideration of the teachings of the Kybalion, one may find an explanation to clear a way many perplexing difficulties. The key will unlock many doors. What is the use of going into detail regarding all of the many features of psychic phenomena and mental science, provided we place in the hands of the student the means whereby he may acquaint himself fully regarding any phase of the subject which may interest him. With the aid of the Kybalion, one may go through any occult library anew, the old light from Egypt illuminating dark pages and obscured subjects. That is the purpose of this book. We do not come expounding a new philosophy, but rather furnishing the outline of a great world teachings, which will make clear the teachings of others, which will serve as a great reconciler of differing theories and opposing doctrines. The Kybalion by 3 Initiates. I'm sorry, I thought I saw somebody walk past my door. I can see out, but they can't see in. The next few pages are just hermetic axioms. We will go through these next week. So that is the law of gender. So next week will be the last part of the Kybalion. I hope you guys have enjoyed it thus far. But you have to, if you're not, the book doesn't go into all these details, as it said. Because it would be pointless to go through all these details if you're not going to, grasp the basic understandings of the 7 hermetic principles. Then there's no point in giving a whole bunch of examples of how people are able to do this and how people are able to do that and how you can accomplish this and that and the third. It becomes wasteful words, bouncing off like duck on a water's back. I mean, duck on a water's back, water on a duck's back. I said that all kind of backwards. The law of gender is such that, let me put it in a nutshell. Absolutely nothing can be manifested without both masculine and feminine. Without both masculine and feminine energy, nothing can be created. Therefore, all the way back into the creation of the universe, whether you are a theist, a deist, a Big Bang Theory, evolutionist, there must be masculine and feminine energy present in order to manifest anything. So when people say God, woman is a God, that God is a woman. Woman cannot manifest without a man. A man is God. Man cannot manifest without a woman. You have to have both. You have to have both energies. We're talking about energy here. Talking about energy. You have to have both energies in order to produce anything, to create anything at every level of the law of correspondence. Whether we are talking about creating something spiritually, creating something on the physical world, or something in the atomic world, masculine and feminine energies that play in order to manifest anything, to make changes in your life. There has to be a level of masculine and feminine energy in every aspect of it. You have the idea that you want to start an online business. All right. You have the idea, and that is your masculine energy. But how strong is your will towards that idea? If it's not strong enough, the feminine energy of your mind will never begin the process of creating that business, nurturing that business. If you desire a relationship, or if you're in a relationship, if you just sit back and you do nothing to nurture, to cause the feminine energy that will nurture the relationship, if your masculine energy is not giving the instructions, if you're not being the romantic, being the securer, being the funny person, being the listener, if you don't, your masculine energy doesn't generate that you are, the me that you will consistently become will be the one that person all of a sudden becomes repelled from. You see, she was attracted to you at first because the me that you had became was attractive. But then you get low vibrational in the relationship, and the me that you have now became is repulsive to her. And she goes and she looks for another one. She looks for somebody else. It goes both ways. The me that the woman was attractive. Then she gets complacent, lazy. And that me that's 5 years later is not attractive. And he is repulsed. His energy, his feminine energy is now repulsed from her masculine energy. So you see, this has nothing to do with sex. This is mental states of energy. And we're all energy. Our bodies is energy. Our thoughts are energy. Every aspect of you is a form of energy. And therefore, it's going to work on these planes the exact same way. It is going to work in the law of gender the exact same way. The matter where we exist in this physical, we have distinction of sex. And we do have certain things that we've clouded the titles. We've clouded the name. Oh, he's overly masculine. She's overly feminine. She's overly masculine. He's overly feminine. We've clouded these things to fit our cultures, and our cultures consistently change. A man wearing a skirt today would be considered feminine. But 500 years ago, in certain areas of the world, a man wearing a skirt was masculine. It changes. It changes. There are men that were, until to this day, there are men in Africa who wear skirts. There are men in Scotland who wear skirts. Hell, In Saudi Arabia, they're wearing dresses. Technically, the way we were classified in America, they're wearing dresses. Them dudes are wearing dresses. But in their culture, there is absolutely nothing, as we would say, feminine in America. That's taking the terms and making making them fit at a low vibration. So that's why I knew that this one was going to bring out some of that. It only brought out one person on TikTok. Well, no, two. But there was another person earlier who felt so just felt some kind of way about this podcast. He didn't even know what I was talking about. But so in all that you do, and I have to remind myself at times. That's why I've read this book so many times, because I need those reminders. I have to remind myself at times. How strong has my will been to manifest on every plane of existence what I desire to manifest? Right? What is it that I desire to manifest? And sometimes I have found my will to be lacking. And then I look around and things are not the way I desire for them to be. My will, my eye to change the me that I desire to be is not strong enough right now, because that sleep be feeling so good in the morning that masculine energy to get up and go down there and get that workout done is just not happening. So even in the little things that you may not consider to be big, they're not life-changing, there's still a process of the will. But forever be on guard for other people's will for you, what their impressions that they're placing on you, because their impressions may not be for your greater benefit. And if they're not, you need to be able to identify them and then release yourself from those people so that their influence over you is not causing you to live in a state of being where you cannot be the great. What do I always say? You got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable, right? You got to free yourself from other people's influences that are not good for you in order for you to be a greater version of yourself. A person with Stockholm syndrome, a person who's being abused, and this person keeps saying, I love you, and then they abuse you, and then they're sorry, and then they love you, then they get angry again, and then they abuse you, and the person continues to go through that cycle, is because they are not strong enough. They haven't gotten strong enough in their will to separate themselves from the influences of that person. It's a terrible thing, but that's the truth of the matter. That's the truth of the matter. When I was a personal trainer, and some people, y'all have heard me say this before, I always knew that there's a pain point that a person had to hit if they wanted to make a change in their life. For the most part, that's what it takes. Most people, they have to experience a tremendous amount of pain for their will to become strong enough to change their eye, for that masculine eye to create, to allow the feminine me to manifest and create the body, the health that they desire to have. They always had to hit a pain point. But for those who were already strong-willed, it didn't take as much work for me to get them to where they wanted to be, because they were already there. Their will was already strong. You don't want to hit pain points. Like, sometimes people wonder why I'm able to continue to survive in business, whether it's I'm in one place and I moved the popcorn shop to y'all know I've moved that popcorn shop like 5-6 times. And that is because I'm always, although I have picked some bad locations, I have picked some good locations, economies that went up and went down, I am always keeping an eye on what's going on around me. What's going on? I may not look like I've been paying attention, but I've been paying attention. noticing the changes, noticing how things are affected by other things, how the people around me are affected by certain things. For instance, like the building that my cigar lounge is in right now. It may seem like a minor thing, it may not even seem like it fits, but it fits. My eye was so strong enough that I sat on the corner and I watched people. I sat on the edge of the parking lot, and I watched how people drove. Now, most people would just see and count the number of cars that go by. That's a low vibrational thing. I am looking at the eyes of the driver as they go by, coming from, the top this direction and coming from the opposite direction. Because where their eyes go is what matters. Because where their eyes go is what they see. Their eyes are showing me the higher vibration of their attention to things. And so by watching their eyes, I came to an understanding that the people coming from up the street are looking across the street. And it's only the people coming from down the street who will look in this direction, but they look in this direction after they pass the Shell station, because there's always a car there are often cars coming out of gas stations. And so they're conscious of that. And then it's not till they pass that Shell station that they actually will look in this direction. It was sitting here while I had the business open, gaining that understanding, that gave me an idea of how long it will take to make this into what I want it to be. Because if they don't see you, they're not coming. So then you have to implement things like all your social media marketing and find other kind of things and other kind of ways to gain people's attention. But that's how it works. That's how it doesn't seem like it always fit, but it does. It always fit in everything you do, in every situation you're in. When you're at your job, I don't know what your job is, but if I knew what your job was and we talked about it for a minute, I could probably get a greater understanding and explain how this fits into your job. And then once you understand the pole of how it fits into your job, then that could give you the insight to possibly make it more profitable for you. Whether it's being more efficient, which makes your days easier, or you make more money, get promoted. And sometimes you may not want to get promoted because you may not want to do all the extra work or have the extra responsibility. Me and Angie was talking yesterday. There's a part of me that wants to keep the lounge. And there's a part of me that wants to just take and make the cigars an online business. Because I'm be honest, and she already knows this, so I'm not telling her, saying something that I said to her. I get sick of sitting in here all day, every day, 10, 12 hours. And those are some of the things that people, when they start business, they don't understand. They think that, I'm going to start a business, then I'm going to be on vacation. All that shit. You may go 5 years, 10 years before you take a vacation when you start a business. Now, the risk is great and the rewards are even greater when you start a business. But you're going to have to put in a lot of energy first. That's that masculine energy being put in. You got to put a lot in. And you have to know what your limitations are. In all honesty, to look back on it, at least with the popcorn shop, it closed at 8 o'clock every day. Not 10 o'clock, not midnight. When you think about it, that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of hours. Right. So the older I get, I know that's not sustainable. Because then I won't become the me that I desire to be. And you know, it's so funny. It's so funny. Let me unlock this door real quick. But it's so funny. I just thought about something. It's so funny. I completely forgot about this. So it was this one time in band camp, right? Let me say. Yes, the eye visibility is good, but advertising visibility is better. If you catch them in their whether social medias or some format, that is better. But the point was, I look at everything, and you should look at everything from the smallest to the biggest. But I just remembered something. I hadn't thought about this in a very, very long time because it wasn't a great part of great memory. So there's one time in band camp, I had partially paid child support payments for like 6 months. My license got suspended. I didn't know. Got pulled over for speed. Had to go to the Cobb County Clink. I was only there for about 14 hours. But while I was there, when I was out press checking out, you know, when they getting ready to let you go, I forgot what that's called. There was this guy, and he kept his speech pattern. He would kept saying that he kept calling himself the me. Kept calling himself the me. Like, you know, he wouldn't say, I'm going to change. He was like, me gonna change me, you know. And he kept saying that. And everybody was looking at him like he was crazy. But there was something about the way he was saying it. I listened to him and it was resonating with me. Because there was like an inert part of me that was understanding what he was actually saying. And I had already read Kybalion several times, but of course, if you haven't read something for a while, you forget. But then I read the Kybalion again, probably about a year or two later, and I was like, that's what that fool was talking about. When he kept referring to himself as the me, he was referring to himself as to what he was becoming. That he wasn't who he was not stagnant in the place and the time and the situation that he was in, but it was to whom his eye was causing him to become. But he was just saying it in such a way that he used me all the time, projecting into the future. So he was talking to his eye was talking to his me, and he was, you know, trying to increase that vibration by consistently saying it, and speaking in that pattern. I would love to run into that dude today. I can barely remember what he looked like. But that was one of the first times that that's the only time I've ever heard somebody talk like that. And he was so consistent with it. And you can tell he had been changing that pattern for a minute. Right. And he was in there for, you know, the same. He was in there. I think it was something petty, something bullshit that he was in there for. I think it was like he got in there for jaywalking, and the police just continued to harass him because he was, I don't know. I don't remember everything. So let me not try to be deep because I can't remember everything else that he was saying. But how you talk to yourself is my point. How you talk to your me is very important towards that development, towards that growth. Because everybody else is talking to it. Everybody else is talking to it. They're talking to it on Facebook. They're talking to it on TikTok, YouTube. They're talking to it. Like, I had the guy on here. I don't know. I guess he's gone now. E. Bayless. Now, he told me I have to be a doctor in order for me to explain XY chromosome. But yet he wants to explain everything about cigars. And he was talking about how they use alcohol to break down tobacco, demonstrating to me that he don't know shit about cigar tobacco, because cigar tobacco and cigarette tobacco are two different things. Alcohol is not used in cigar tobacco at all. You don't use alcohol to go through the curing process of cigar tobacco. Unless you're making some old flavored bullshit. No, even with the flavor one, I don't think they use alcohol. Because cigar tobacco has to be all natural to be considered cigar tobacco. Otherwise, it's not. Other than some flavor stuff. But this was somebody not listening, trying to influence me with his eye. Now, for me, it can be said the same thing from me towards you guys. But this is why I always say, whatever I say, go research it. Because could I be wrong about something? Yes. Reading that book, for the most part, you've gotten my interpretations as being said, or my examples that I give for what's being said. You still should go back and read it yourself, because you may be able to understand deeper levels of it than I understand. And if you do, please come tell me. But you may be able to understand deeper levels of it. You may see pathways in the law of vibrations that I didn't see. You may understand something in polarity that I didn't see. So definitely read it for yourself. Read it for yourself. Study it for yourself. Gain a deeper understanding of it for yourself. Take what I've said and say valid or invalid. Works for me, doesn't work for me. This part is good. This part, he don't know what he's talking about. Or he was just on the surface or something like that. So definitely go and read this book for yourself. We are going to do the last parts of the axiom next week. But I want you guys to start thinking about what the next book is going to be. We got the Gospel of Thomas. We got the Tao. It was a part in there where he was talking. We're talking about other writers have written about these kind of fun. The outwitting the devil. When I was reading that part, I told you guys I can have 3-4 thoughts going on in my brain at the same time, but seem like I'm focused on one. But when I was reading one of those parts, I was remembering a lot of the law of mental gender. I was remembering a lot from the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That portion, mental gender, even though in Outwitting the Devil, you can tell that Napoleon Hill had read and studied the Kybalion, that part about mental gender is he gives a detailed, it's a detailed adaptation of that. That's really what the Outwitting the Devil is. It is the law of the law of gender, and specifically mental gender, broken down. So Outwitting the Devil is definitely one of the books that we will do. That's going to be a long one right there. I'm telling you, that's going to be that's probably going to take a few months to go through that book. That's going to take a few months. That's not a short read like that book was. And so that's going to take a few months. So you got so I said the Gospel of Thomas, the Tao, Outwitting the Devil, the Emperor's Handbook, the Stoic philosophy of Marcus Aurelius. That's a good one. The Emerald Tablets. That would be a good one. So I want y'all to start thinking about some of the books. Y'all can go ahead and start. If you want to submit them now, you can submit them on the back channels. That's fine. But definitely by next week, y'all need to, if you have a preference, you need to have that preference being spoken. But that's what we're doing. So next week will be the last time for that one. Don't know if we're gonna have a live tomorrow. I have to see. I don't know what all I have to do in the morning. It's Friday morning. Usually I have things I'm doing Friday morning, but we'll see. So now we are open to any subject matter whatsoever, at least for the next unless somebody walks in here until 1 o'clock. It's 12:25 right now, Eastern Standard Time. Any subject matters that you guys, any questions? Having less is more. In a lot of instances, it is. A lot of reason it is. Okay, you're welcome there, Donald. Having less sometimes is more. Especially when I look around, because, I mean, think about it. If I was just selling cigars online, then I could be at home. And when we're, I can do more podcasts, I can do more videos. I could sell, I know me, I would be like, okay, I'm already working on a distributor for this hat. I will be selling this hat and the other hats that I wear. I'll be prompting those. I'll probably take my cigar that I develop and get that into other shops. The biggest thing is I would have freedom of my time. You understand? Freedom of my time. I think that's the thing that weighs on me the most of opening this up, is that it took away so much of my freedom. Because those hours may not seem like a lot. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those were 2 hours a day that I increased my hours. So that's 2, 4, 6, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yes, so that's those 4 days. Right. So that's 8 more hours in my week. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I added 4 more hours in my week. So that's 12 more hours. So that's 20 more hours. I added 20 more hours of work, of confinement in one space to my life when I opened this up. After working 10 years of being in that popcorn shop for the majority of the time. That's a lot. That weighs heavy on me. I gotta tell you, that weighs heavy on me. That's why when I did that first video about in and out to legacy business, and the thing I was most proud about is when I sold those Black Panther bracelets and made like $12,000 in 8 weeks, because it didn't require me being in somewhere for 8 to 10 hours. It didn't require that. That's why it was so hype for me, because I had my time. If that was the only thing I was doing at that moment, I would have had all day, all my time. Some of the most freeing moments was when I was in between stores, when I was moving the popcorn shop from one location to another, but I'm waiting on the government to do this or the government to do that, and or the lease to be finalized. And I had these weeks where some of the videos you can tell when it was going on, because I was doing videos for like 2 months, and I'm out in the woods doing these videos. It's because I had time. That was some of the best time. Absolute best time. I'm gonna get that back. I'm getting that back. I want my time back. Now, in according to what we read today, as far as the law of gender, if I want that time back, then why is that not charging? If I want that time back, then it is important and vital This is strange. It is vital that I implement a mentality that gives me that time back. If I don't implement a strategy to give me that time back and emotionalize it, then I won't get it back. I won't move. I won't do what is necessary to get that time. I'll be stagnant and it'll just go away. I think my charging base may be dead on that one. Hold on for a second. Always have a backup. Now, when you make such moves, you got to be ready to throw down on the gauntlet. You can't bullshit around. Let's see. Did that make a difference? Nope. Heck, it might be the cord. I just bought the cord. Seemed like. Ugh. All right, let's see. Nope, that didn't charge. Let's steal this one. And put that in here. Let's see. No, it's charging. All right, I got a thing I'm gonna do. Let's put you back over here. All right, maybe let's take this thing out of here. And go direct in. No, okay, it's charging. But it's charging. So we can't use them. No microphone today. So I had to take the microphone out. I wasn't charging for some reason. I almost lost you there, TikTok, because the power almost went out on that one. Share, share it. I shot the sheriff. Earlier, Jose said this is all alchemy, and it is. This is all mental alchemy. But when you practice this mental alchemy, it will manifest itself in your daily life. You'll understand how to manifest it, how to make it work in your life. Because you're always increasing the vibration and raising it up higher and higher and higher. But recognize it got to be something that you truly desire. That's the other part of the me. Your me is going to take influences from elsewhere unless you are the influencer. But you got to know that the me that you desire to be is going to be one that makes you happy. Some people, I always use this lady. She only makes $40,000 a year. But last time I talked to her, which was about 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, she was on her fifth passport. She's had the ability to get promoted and make more money and so on and so forth. But if she did, then she would not have been able to travel the way she has been traveling. Don't ask me how. I know that her house is paid for, so she only pays her taxes every year. She's kind of Warren Buffetting the thing as far as she's been driving the same car for about 12, 15 years. So she doesn't have a lot of outside expenses, so she can take her money that she's not investing in her retirement and travel her ass off. And she buys the tickets when, like, she might buy a ticket to right now for a trip that she's taking in January. And she knows when to take trips to certain places and things that it doesn't cost as much, you know. And this lady travels like a champ, international travel like a champ. That's happiness for her. That's where she wanted her me to be. somebody else might look at him like, oh, you had the chance to become the supervisor, manager, get up in the corporate, whatever, make six figures, and imagine how much traveling you can do at six figures. She may not be able to. She may not have the time to travel if she's doing those other jobs. Her level of stress in her daily life will be more than she would want to deal with, and she may feel too fatigued to travel if she did all of that. So sometimes having what society has said your me should be, as far as how much money you should make, what type of titles you should have, those things won't make your me happy. So since those things won't make your me happy, you have to really dive deep inside yourself, inside your psyche, to figure out, where is your happiness zone? Where's your happiness zone? Right? Where is it? Does it take, and the number is usually less than what people think it is. Oh, it's gonna take me $1 million to get into my happiness zone. I need to make $1 million a year to be in my happiness zone. Your ass ain't making $1 million a year. You know how few people in this world make $1 million a year? Like, they like to tell you, like, oh yeah, there are 500,000 people who make $1 million a year in America. 500,000 compared to 400 million. That's not a lot at all. That's not. Who comes in here? James. James was showing me this video or something where James and Umair were talking. James was talking about this video where these girls were being asked, how much money does a man have to make in order for him to date you? And the girls were like, 120. The other girl said 120. Another girl said 120. This other girl did say about 50, 60. And then one girl said he needs to make 500,000 a year to date her. Of course, I'm looking at these young ladies and I'm like, what the hell is making you so special? But anyway, then Umair started bringing up that there's this website that you can go to. I forgot what it was. And it shows how many people are making certain amounts of money. And it can even break it down into race. It can break it down into gender, and it can break it, sex, break it down into sex. And it can break it down into whether they're married or not. And for single Black men who make $500,000 a year, it was like 200. So this young lady is saying that she gonna get one of the 200 out of the 47 million Black people in America, and the 200 who make this kind of money. Just 200. The likelihood of her ever meeting them is very low. And unfortunately, if you think about it, of those 200, some of them are going to be ball players. That's an easy one. Some of them are going to be ball players. The majority of the ones who do make more than that, there was a higher number who makes that kind of money, but most of them were married. Most of them are married. Just even when you look at the number of Black men who make six figures, it's not a lot compared to the entirety of the population. So, but as I was saying, that number is, people always put this number higher than what you need it to be. I remember training this couple, up in this Caucasian couple, and her husband had lost, he didn't lose his job, but they cut him back $50,000. He was making $300,000 a year. They cut him back $50,000. That $50,000 cutback, because they were so expensive, financed up, they had to sell 2 of their houses. So they had their main house, they had 2 mountain houses and 1 beach house. They had to sell 2 of their houses. They had to get rid of some of their cars. They had to decrease the number of vacations. That $50,000 made that big of a difference because the kids were involved in private school, this and all these other things they had going out as expensive. So just because you make a high dollar number doesn't mean you get to spend lavishly on yourself a high dollar number, you know? So sometimes that number is not what it is. How you budget, what you got makes more of a difference than how much you make. Trust me, I have misbudgeted a bunch of times in my life. I told you guys now that book, Richest Man in Babylon, that's going to be for my in and out to legacy business page. Richest Man in Babylon, when I read that in 1991, no, it wasn't 91 when I read that. I think it was 92. It was before I went to Germany, so it had to be like 92, 93. When I read that in that time frame, that book changed my entire concept of money. Because nobody had taught me anything about money prior to that. You know, from my family, it was get a job, make some money, or start a company, make some money, and then we'll get a hustle and go make some money. And then pay your bills and then spend the rest on just trying to make yourself happy. That was my money lessons growing up. But that book made a huge difference in my life. Now, running your own business is hard. Sometimes you can't stick by it because you get out of balance. Sometimes you have good months, you have bad months. Things go up and down. But whenever I had a regular job, my budget was on point. Didn't do nothing outside that budget. And whether I made $50,000 or whether I made $180,000, I stuck to that budget. And I actually had more enjoyment of life when I made 50 than when I made 182. When I made 182, I didn't even get to enjoy it because my ass was traveling so much. I would be going anywhere from 14 to 28 days every month. I was on the road. I'm sleeping in hotels. I'm waking up in hotels and got to look at the stationery because I don't know what city I'm in because all these hotel rooms look the same. I wasn't, and that's why I realized being around my children gave me more happiness than making this money, than traveling around, you know, going to all these cities. Like that wasn't, being with my family was more important. So those years that I made that, when I worked for that company, most money I put in my pocket. Is that the most I ever put in my pocket ever? Yep, that was the most I ever put in my pocket ever. The others with the popcorn shop, it was close, but no. Now when I was a personal trainer, close, but no, not quite. But yeah, most money I put in my pocket. But some of the worst years. So you got to evaluate that. When you start thinking about the me that you want to become and you put a monetary number on it, and if you put all this energy into trying to manifest this money, but where's your happiness in it? Is that the me that you want to become? It may not be. You have to be able to evaluate. And if you misevaluate it and things start not being what you desire, you have to learn how to pivot. You change the energy pattern. Change your thought process. Because a lot of us do things because society has said so. The Cosby Show told my generation, go to college and get a good job. And you'll have a great family and a great wife, and your kids gonna boomerang a lot, but go to college and get a good job and work for the company. That's what the Cosby Show taught us. But by the time I became a young adult, companies weren't loyal, and they still not loyal. That worked for the company 30, 40 years and get the gold watch, that shit was gone. Going to college, as people see today, my generation was one of the first generations that experienced, because I'm 51. Going to college, get a degree does not guarantee you a job. Does not guarantee you a job at all. And I actually should have realized that before, because my senior year, I was pushing buggies at Cub Foods, and a guy who had been pushing buggies with me for a year, because I worked there for a year from my 11th, halfway through that summer before 12th grade, all the way till I left to go to the Marine Corps. Well, go to college and then the Marine Corps. That dude had a degree in architecture, and he was pushing buggies right there next to me. And he had been pushing them buggies for 2 years. Nope, you are right, Larry. Going to college doesn't guarantee that you're smart. Going to college just means that you can follow instructions and pass some tests and turn in some papers, or depending upon what you're going to school for. A guy in one interview that I was in, did I have my associate's degree at that time frame? I think I had my associate's degree. And I was interviewing with the guy, and he said, I see you have he said, I see you have an associate's degree in computer science. And I was like, yep. I was all proud of it. Yep, sure do. And I'm certified in, MCSE, MCT, MCSA, what I was A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, CCNA, and all these certifications. And he was reading them all. I'm just sitting up there, chest just getting bigger the more he read off my certifications. And he said, okay, well, I see that you know how to pass a test and follow some instructions, but do you actually know how to do the work? And I was like, what the fuck? I was mad as hell for a second. I couldn't demonstrate that I was mad, but I was mad for a second. Like, did this man just take my degrees and certifications, just kick them down the road? But that's all it meant. When I walked out of that interview, I realized exactly what you're saying, Larry, that all those that degree and all those certifications didn't mean I knew how to do the job. It meant that I was smart enough to pass the test, that I knew the answers to the test. I knew how to turn in the paperwork or do the labs. That's all that degree, and that's all that those certifications meant. It did not mean I actually knew how to go in and design a computer network and all its infrastructure, the security portion of it, because I specialize in network security. It didn't mean none of that, which is why he later brought me in and had me demonstrate it. I had to demonstrate that I knew what the hell I was doing in order to get that gig. Just like when I came back to Atlanta, I came for an interview. I had to demonstrate that I knew how. It was a computer school. I had to demonstrate that I knew how to teach a class and how to explain it, and then how to go through the labs and then deal with issues when the lab goes south, which I recognized real quick that they programmed the lab to not work right. So when I saw that they did that, I went in and I said, oh, wait, there's a programming error in this lab. Let me fix it. All right, now y'all do the lab. And as soon as I did that, the dude was like, all right, don't worry about it. But yeah, that's all it proves. That's it. That's it. But the business of college got people thinking that that's what they got to have. On my In and Out to Legacy business page, y'all go like Really Did You Know with Angelina, because her page is funny. It's great. Finding out that people carried wedding bouquets because everybody was stank, and that's why they carried the wedding bouquet is very interesting. Finding out that they used to rip the bride's dress apart because that was good luck to have a piece of the bride's dress. That was interesting to learn. So a lot of little interesting things over there why we do certain traditions and facts, traditions and things. But shit, in saying that, I forgot what I was about to say. So got a job, certifications. I forgot what I was going to say. I know something about how colleges, they've imprinted in our minds that we got to go to college to do all this. But then why is there a guy who gave up being a doctor and went to Uganda and opened a chicken farm, a chicken egg farm? He mainly sells eggs, and he's become a millionaire. From doctor to chicken farmer. What's up, Eyes Wide Open? How you doing? That's what he did. Forget being that doctor. He raising chickens and collecting eggs and became a millionaire. And he said on the video, people said that he was crazy. And some of his family members are pissed off at him to this day. Because they're like, how you give up being a doctor to raise chicken? But he's putting more money in his pocket as a chicken farmer than he did as a doctor. Just think about that for a second. I remember I had went out on a date with this girl, and she was a lawyer. Happy that she was a lawyer. Oh shit, I'm a lawyer. Right? And I was a personal trainer at the time. I owned a gym at the time. She did know that I owned the gym. And I think that's the only reason she went out with me, because she knew I owned the gym. If I had just told her I was a personal trainer, she probably would be like, no. So we get talking. And come to realize, oh, she's a lawyer. And she was all, I make $60,000 a year. And this is in 2000. This would have been 2009. I make $60,000 a year. I said, oh, that's nice. Because I guess she thought I was supposed to be impressed by that. And I was like, that's nice. Well, I need a man who make at least that. I said, okay. And then she started, so what do you plan on, what do you plan on doing? You gonna open up more gyms? You gonna, go back to school and all this kind of stuff? I was like, nah, I'm good. And I could see that everything was going south for me. I was like, nah, I'm good. And then when it was finally, when the date, I called for the ticket early. And I told her, I remember telling her, I said, you put too much into a title. I said, you make $60,000 a year. I make 120. But you so worried about the title instead of worrying about who I am. That's why we're not going to do this again. Yeah. I remember that so vividly. I can tell you exactly what restaurant we was at. But it was like, but that's what people do. People have taken the influence of other people instead of creating and developing who they desire to be on their own. And that's what that law of mental gender was talking. That's what mental gender was talking about when it was talking about the difference between the I and the me. That you can just say the I is the will. The I is the will. The me is always who you are becoming. It is not who you are. It is not the parts of you that surround you. It's not this hat. It's not this shirt. It's not this unk or this hand of Hansama. It's not these bees or the ring or this ring. It's not the cigar. It's none of that. It's not the car that I drive, the motorcycle I ride. It's none of that. It's who I'm always becoming. Because you are always becoming something. Every moment you are having an experience. And every experience is providing you some level of information, some level of willpower, whether it's from yourself or someone else. Your perspective on that will is what's going to create more of your future me, your next moment me. Because you're always becoming. You're on the polarity of your me, of your being, but the law of rhythm is always at work, where you could either swing more to the right based on the vibration of the I, of the will, or you're going to swing to the left based on the vibration of the will. So I hope y'all get that, take that, add that to how you function, and add it to how you function right now. Add it to how you move right now. Like in the moment that this is over, in the 6 minutes before I get off here, after this 6 minutes, whatever it is that you are doing, if you're at work, if you're not at work, you're at home, you're at play, whatever it is that you're doing, become acutely aware of all the influences that are hitting you immediately, and then evaluate if that's within your will, if it's stronger than your will. But first evaluate if it's your will or someone else's will. If it is someone else's will, is their will stronger than yours? If theirs is stronger than yours, then increase the vibration, the strength of your will by backing it up with emotion. And then, because right now you're just backing it up with thought, with just logical thought, but back it up with emotion, power it with emotion. And when you power it with the emotion, the vibration is higher and stronger. And you are the determining factor of the me. You become the determining factor of the me. And make sure it's where you want to go. And if it's not, if at the end you look at it and the results are not getting you what you desire, don't be afraid and don't give two shits about what other people think, and go back, reevaluate the energy, the output, the vibration, the actions, the thought process, the perspective. Go back, reevaluate those things, implement them again, but even stronger this time, even stronger, more deeply emotionalized, and see where it leads you. And every time you don't get to where you had desired to be, repeat the process until you get there. Repeat the process over and over again until you get there. Until you get there, because otherwise it dies. Your swing to the right will swing your happy ass back to the left, and then you'll be pissed, you'll be crying, you'll be whining, you'll be wondering why things don't work for you, and be always in some badass attitude and pushing away, and then you'll run to some safety that you hate. You see, over these last I went 6 years of my popcorn shop being not making no goddamn money, not hardly making that much money to where I was living in my popcorn shop. I could have easily taken about 4 or 5 months, knowing me, I could have done it in 3. I could have taken 3 months, studied my ass off, regained my MC. Well, I just have to pay. I would have paid for my MCT certification, which paying for that gives me access to all the online servers and programs for Microsoft. Having access to that, I could have taken 3 months of studying and practicing the labs and setting up and designing networks and fighting against viruses and all that kind of stuff. And in 3 months, I could have gotten my IT certifications back up to par, go out, get a mid-level job in IT, and then just work my way back up the chain. That would have been me running to a safety net that I freaking hate. And when I say freaking hate, I mean I fucking hate it. I do not like IT. I hate IT. I would never. It makes me want to throw up in my mouth to even think about working in IT again. Right? Hate to hear it, but it's true. Yep. Never want to work in IT again. But some of you will run to that safety net. Some of you are in that safety net right now. You hate your freaking job. You hate the relationships that you're in. You hate the place that you live. You hate the way your day-to-day life is going, but you're in it because it's a safety net. It's a safety net for you. So until you say you talk to your I, and that I forms your will, and your will vibrates at a higher level, emotionalized, you can't, then you're not going to change your me. But then until you do that, that's when you can change your me, and you can go and you can be however you want to be, because now yours is stronger than what everybody else is saying. Yours is now stronger than what society is saying. Yours is, let me get a Bill Clinton. Yours is stronger than what society is saying. Yours is stronger than what your parents have said. Yours is stronger than what they say success is. And when yours is stronger than what they say, you end up happy. You're going to drop some people out of your life. Some people can't be in your life in order for you to be happy. Some men, some women, some family members, some societal people, some pastors or clergy, whatever clergy you do. Some people cannot be in your life in order for you to be happy. Some places you can't live in order to be happy. It's just not going to work. Hell, there are some ways that you just can't dress in order for you to be happy. It can come down to something as simple as that, and you will not be happy. So you got to be that. You got to be the stronger one. You got to invoke your will. So I'm gonna get off my soapbox with that one. Get off my soapbox because it's 1 o'clock. It's 1:01 actually. So tomorrow, more than likely, we'll be going live again around between 10 and 10:30. Appreciate it, Joe. But tomorrow we'll be going live. I have no idea what the subject matter is going to be right now, but I'm sure it'll be something. Something, you know, if you're just now finding this page, the primary thing that we do here is religious deconstruction. So you may not want to be here tomorrow because we do religious deconstruction. That's the primary thing. So it'll probably be something of that. And since I grew up Christian, most of the deconstruction deals with Christianity. So you may not want to be here tomorrow for that part. And you may just want to join us on Thursday when we do book club that is generally based around some philosophy. Next week, we have the last portion of the Kybalion. And then, of course, Tuesday is our What's Wrong with the Bible series. Since we're reading it, we ain't going to read the whole goddamn thing, but we're just reading until I say, okay, that's enough. All right. We're in, what are we in? We just started Leviticus. So we'll be doing Leviticus 4. I think it'll be 4 and 5. So with that, I appreciate everybody. Please share the channel. If y'all really want me to live my best life, y'all do you let me put that out there. Do y'all want me to live my best life? That's what I want to know. Do y'all really want me to live my best life? You know, give me some hearts or say yes or something. If y'all really want me to live my best life, even if you're looking at this later, comment that you want me to live my best life. Because if you really want me to live my best life, then I need y'all to share the shit out of these videos. I need y'all to share the hell out the channel. I need y'all to watch the YouTube. I need the TikTok people to be over on Facebook and YouTube. Because TikTok don't pay worth shit. Because if y'all really want me to live my best life, then I'm not inside this cigar lounge. I'm not in here. I'm shooting videos all day. All right. I'm doing lives almost every day. Right. I'm getting in contact with other people of like mind or strong enough disagreement mind, because I wouldn't want to do a show where somebody has an opposing thought, but they can't compare knowledge base. You know, actually, I would rather somebody be of greater knowledge than me so that I can grow. But, you know, to have that, to do that would be me living my best life. That would be me living my best life, you know. And, you know, I know Errol is one of my main people who always donating on YouTube. I appreciate the donations. I really do. But I want YouTube and Facebook to pay me based on their algorithm more than I want people donating. And to do that, we need to share these videos. So go on out there. If you really want me to live my best life, share the videos, y'all. Share the videos. If you ain't a subscriber, subscribe and share the videos. I greatly appreciate it. So, all right, I'm finished for real. I'm finished for real. So y'all have a great day. Only Felicia wants me to have a great life, wants me to live my best life on YouTube. I'm so hurt by the rest of y'all on YouTube. Y'all been with me the longest. And only Felicia. Yes, I'm guilting you into it, YouTube. I am. But anyway, y'all enjoy yourself. I will see y'all tomorrow around between 10 and 10:15. we should be getting started. So y'all have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Looks like my timing is perfect because somebody's about to come up to the lounge. You late, Marcus. You late. Nah, I appreciate you, bro. Gotta go.